Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today we have a brand new video covering this book, very unknown book that, I've seen places but has been really overpriced. Haven't gotten. And I finally found it today for a really good deal. It's called The Art and Making of Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. Now, this goes over every single step of the process of making this game, every single concept that was gone over, every single one. And I mean, this is stuff that you don't see anymore, right? Because Disney's a corporation and they don't like to talk about growth and things they work through and good ideas and bad ideas. They don't talk about that. But back in the George days, every behind the scenes publication was extraordinarily in depth. And in this one particularly was insanely in depth in terms of you know how this whole game got put together. I mean, they literally show you every single concept and talk about it. Nowadays, we only hear that stuff through interviews where they're asked a question close to that. They never talk about it reasonably because people are scared to go through the creative process, and corporations just don't do that, but George did. And this also shows how heavily involved George was with this game. And I haven't even read all of this. I just got this today, but I thought I might as well go through the conceptual elements of this, the first chapter of this, and we're going to go through the entire kind of story of how this game got made and all the different concepts and ideas that Lucasfilm had before, it got finalized. So, without further ado, we will start this, and I will obviously show you kind of what I'm looking at occasionally. Again, this is The Art and Making of the Force Unleashed by W. Hayden Blackman, who's a creator of the game, and Brett Rector, with a foreword by our boy Hayden Christensen. Here's the foreword. I'm not going to read it, but I've read it already, obviously, but it's really cool. But if you guys want to read that, you can pause. Yeah, but for time's sake, that would send me into a whole thing. But anyways, we're here. The next chapter. With the release of Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith in May 2005, it appeared that the Star Wars saga was complete. All 6 chapters in George Lucas's mythic tale had been released, finally revealing the full story behind Anakin Skywalker's journey from slave boy to Dark Lord to redeemed villain. But even with the 2 film trilogies finished, the Star Wars series was far from over. In the spring of 2006, Lucasfilm revealed that the next chapter in the epic saga was in development, not as a film, novel, or comic book, but as an interactive video game being created at LucasArts in collaboration with George Lucas. Titled Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, the game proved to be one of the most ambitious Star Wars stories ever told, bridging the dark years between Episode 3 and 4, showcasing the rise of the Empire and including key characters, such as Princess Leia and the Emperor, in pivotal roles. It transports audiences to a wide range of fantastic locations, both familiar and new, and provides greater insight into the character of Darth Vader. It also introduces audiences to a fresh cast of characters, including an enigmatic hero known as Darth Vader's secret apprentice, and reveals one of the saga's most important moments, the birth of the Rebel Alliance. But as with all the Star Wars films, these details are just a backdrop for a hero's personal journey. The apprentice's story takes him from a hunt for the last of the Jedi at Vader's behest to his destiny as the galaxy's first rebel. It is a tale of adventure, heroism, self-sacrifice, and ultimately redemption. The announcement that the saga would indeed continue was met with a great deal of excitement and anticipation, but what fans in the media did not know was that the game, already well over a year in development by the spring of 2006, did not actually begin as the next chapter in the Star Wars saga. Here's the next part. Searching for a concept, Developing and releasing The Force Unleashed was a 3-year journey that involved literally hundreds of people from over a dozen disciplines, including design, art, engineering, production, testing, finance, business affairs, marketing, public relations, sales, consumer insights, and other areas. The development team's work began in the fall of 2004, when a handful of us were offered the opportunity to build LucasArts' next major Star Wars game. In those days, the team consisted of fewer than 12 developers, engineers, designers, and artists. Our first phase of development consisted of brainstorming a wide range of high-level concepts around which we might build the game design and story. At that time, we were operating under only a handful of constraints. Constraint 1. The game, obviously, needed to deliver an authentic Star Wars experience. Right there, is the difference between the George days and right now. This was their number one goal, and it's this should still be the number one goal. Obviously, as Hayden said, he's obviously, but it's not anymore, but back in the day, this was the absolute, the core of everything was it needed to be authentic Star Wars, not, it needs to feel different. And, that wasn't, because this is, again, back when the people at Lucasfilm cared. Anyways, through exhaustive research, LucasArts has developed a series of filters that help us understand how fans define a true Star Wars experience. Chief among these is the demand for an epic story that includes relatable characters, comedy, key Star Wars icons, and some sort of human struggle. That is all we want. See, it's already here. It's right here. It's right here. People have already done this research at Lucasfilm. It's common knowledge. And they just ruin this shit constantly. God, it's it's right here. The answer for what do you guys really want is literally right here in one sentence. Oh my God. Anyways, the team embraced these filters, and every concept began with a strong story or character hook. Bro, Lucasfilm, what is going on? What the hell is going on? You have it right here, bro. I don't know what more you want. That right here is literally applicable to every single Star Wars project. Even a theme park, an attraction, a fucking comic issue special. Every tiny little thing can be applied using this paragraph. This is the most vital paragraph. This is the answer to the problem with Star Wars right now. This is ridiculous. What? Holy shit. I'm no, we're on, yeah, this is crazy, bro. This is crazy. Anyways, we'll continue and go back to that later. We were also intent on providing players with things they had never seen before in a game. Bro. So we focused on using physics and artificial intelligence. AI. These people used AI in 2004. They were researching AI in 2004. Do you see? This was Lucasfilm, bro. This was Lucasfilm. They were so ahead of the game. They were miles and miles and years and decades ahead of the game with every single project. They were the greatest film studio to ever exist and to ever be around. I mean, this alone, come on, imagine where Star Wars stuff would be if George was still running it, and how far ahead of all these other brands we'd be through story and technology if George was still running Star Wars. It's crazy. With the advent of the new, more powerful gaming consoles, LucasArts developed a strategy of creating games based around simulation-driven gameplay, essentially using advanced simulations rather than hand-animated or pre-scripted events to help drive the experience. As a team, we firmly believed that simulation-driven design would prove unpredictable and authentic payoffs for everything the player did in the game, and would enable players to interact with environments and characters in new and increasingly interesting ways. Third, Finally, we also knew that the game had to have huge mass market appeal. The Star Wars brand immediately brings a wide audience, and all of these potential players would need to find the game accessible, easy to pick up and play, engaging and fun. So, do you see how money and marketing and business and all that shit was the third thing here? And how that wasn't one? Because that's not what makes something successful. That's not what makes something good. That's not what if I focus on the business side, then we'll make a lot of money. It's like, no, if you have a good concept and a good story and a good idea and a unique idea that hasn't been done before, that's what will make you money. Then you deal with the other stuff later. That's how I go about all my things with my film projects and all my projects. That's such a last thing. That's not see how the common sense existed. It's like we don't have this anymore. Like, no one, like, the common sense of humanity just died. I swear, like, after 2019 just died. No one has common sense, but the very few that do now. It's ridiculous. With these early requirements, a mass market Star Wars game featuring simulation-based gameplay, we began brainstorming hundreds of content and gameplay hooks. There were very few rules to this brainstorming phase, and hooks could revolve around characters. The Darth Maul game. Gameplay features, weapon customization, plot setups, what if the Jedi and the Sith formed an alliance? That would be cool. Star Wars time periods, Knights of the Old Republic era, and even unanswered questions from the saga. Who was Darth Plagueis? Because this is way before the Plagueis novel was written. Way, way before. The early brainstorming initially spanned the entire Star Wars continuity, with concepts set in the far past and far future of the timeline, and ideas for games about nearly every major Star Wars character. Out of this huge pool of short 1 or 2 sentence pitches, we selected a handful of our favorite concepts for further development. Each would ultimately contribute in some way to the final design for The Force Unleashed. We began expanding each short pitch, developing more detailed storylines, fleshing out characters, and defining gameplay features and mechanics. While most concepts sounded exciting as short one-liners, some ideas were too limiting in their scope or appeal, while other concepts were so broad that they would take many years to build. Some featured characters who would only be interesting for short bursts, while other characters felt cliched or generic. Over time, the concepts that survived this round of creative development excited and engaged everyone on the team and had us all dreaming about new Star Wars stories and experiences. Bro, get this guy back, bro. I don't care he just made one game, bro. He knows the shit more than anyone at Lucasfilm, more than Dave Filoni. This guy, who claims that he's like, he doesn't claim, but people claim he's some, like, freaking hero. I'm like, yeah, bullshit. Clearly not. And, like, this is the guy we really need. We need people like this. And there's actually a good amount of those out there. They're just not at Lucasfilm because Lucasfilm won't hire them. But, yeah. Anyways, early concepts. Here's the next part. Here's some concept art, whatever. Early concepts. Star Wars Underworld. Holy shit. There's no shot in hell. The cover just already fucking fell off. Well, I'm gonna have to glue that together. Shit. Anyways. At various times over the past 10 years, LucasArts developers have talked about making a game focused on the life of a smuggler like Han Solo. The idea resurfaces in nearly every pre-production effort and continues to hold great interest for Star Wars fans. True. So one of the first one-liners we threw into our brainstorming bucket was a smuggler game. Over time, this concept became known internally as Star Wars Underworld, a code name that suggested the game's primary setting. Although the team also explored a Han Solo game, in which the player would actually take on the role of the roguish pilot, we ultimately decided to put our energies into a design that enabled the player to create his own underworld character and plot his own... Bro, this is Star Wars Outlaws, but the good version. All this shit that they... Oh my god. I swear, every time I read a new thing about like George era Star Wars, it makes me hate Disney triple times over. Like just these things alone, I like it's infuriating seeing like just thinking about what we're getting. It is like genuinely infuriating. Like, holy, are we being gypped right now? Using Han Solo as inspiration and drawing on many expanded universe. Oh my god. Every word of this is just like gold. We generated a huge list of features for the Underworld concept. The player would need his own Millennium Falcon, a customizable starship that he could be used for travel, smuggling, and space combat. We would also need a small crew, other characters the player could befriend or hire to pilot and maintain the starship, protect his back during cantina brawls, help avoid any Imperial entanglements, and gather information. The idea of a living crew inspired many on the team, and a host of features were proposed to give each crew member his or her own personality traits, skills, and methods. Our ultimate goal was for the player to develop a bond with his crew members that was as strong as Han Solo's bond with his co-pilot, the Wookiee Chewbacca. Notice how everything comes back to the 6 films. Everything they're talking about, it comes back to what George did. You know, what would George do? Why did the original 6 films do so well? How can we replicate those films here in a different way? That's literally the focal point of this entire fucking book. And book game company at the time. When generating any game concept, the central question is always, what is the player doing moment to moment? For the Star Wars Underworld concept, the player would be taking missions ranging from smuggling runs to starship raids and even attacks against the Empire, from various shady contacts affiliated with the criminal groups such as the Hutt Cartel, Black Sun, and the Rebel Alliance. As some other open-world games, we intended to design the missions so that they could be completed in a variety of ways. The player would also be encouraged to explore the galaxy to meet new contacts and locate new sources of income. Perhaps our biggest concern about the concept was the lack of a long-term goal. Why is the player ultimately playing the game? What does he hope to accomplish? Ideas range from become the next Jabba the Hutt to more personal story-related goals. Find your missing partner. Another major concern was the complexity of the design. Building a galaxy-spanning game with customizable starships, an intelligent and an evolving crew, and a flexible mission structure that offers players plenty of choices is no small feat. Yeah, by the way, 2004, yet again. Despite these reservations, the concept was our front runner to become LucasArts' next internally developed Star Wars game. Shit, dude. How far have we fallen, bro? Like, honestly, this is embarrassing, bro. Like, honestly, this is embarrassing. Like, genuinely, how we've fallen to this level of just nothing. I mean, yeah, it makes Rogue One and Mando, you know, all these things that people are like, oh, but they are so Star Warsy. It's like, no, they're not. Look at this. This is Star Wars. Everything they're saying here is a 10 out of 10 concept that I'd love to see. And nowadays, that concept would be so possible with our technology and resources today, you know? And I feel even if they still pursued it, they could have done it back then because they were Lucasfilm. You know, they were the pioneers, the underground artists, you know, they were the underdogs who could literally do anything. They were the Rebel Alliance, you know, of the film industry. And were treated that way by the empire, you know, of the film industry, which is the nasty Hollywood crap, you know. But yeah, anyways, so this is the next concept we're exploring. The Rise of the Rebellion, I guess. Let's see what this is about. Oh my god, the first fucking word. Consumer research is an integral part of game development at LucasArts, beginning well before the early brainstorming phase. Based on this research, the development team knew that Star Wars fans were intrigued by the era between episodes 3 and 4 and the details surrounding the birth of the rebellion. Right there, cared about the fans, considered the fans' input. Focus testing also revealed that weapon customization, the ability to create, modify, and upgrade weapons in-game, was a highly desirable gameplay feature. Yeah, I would agree. We combine these two elements into a concept codenamed Rise of the Rebellion, which cast the player in the role of the galaxy's first rebel. As with the Star Wars Underworld concept, Rise of the Rebellion was meant to be an open-world game that provided players with the ability to choose when, where, and how they attack the Empire. Possible storylines focused on this first rebel being an Imperial weaponsmith, an officer whose family was killed by a rival, or even a rogue clone trooper. As the team explored these possibilities, we purposefully stayed away from any Jedi or Force-wielding protagonists, preferring instead to focus on characters whose tactical skills, homemade weapons, and intelligence made them a match for the Empire. The original mission ideas allowed for a wide range that included shades of gray objectives revolving around revenge or greed. But as the concept evolved alongside the morally ambiguous Star Wars Underworld, we decided that we wanted something to contrast the darker concept. We mandated that the Rise of the Rebellion should be unabashedly heroic and vowed that the game would feature a central character and storyline that made the player feel like an underdog hero battling a huge and oppressive enemy from the outset. The evolved design focused almost solely on altruistic mission objectives, such as stopping the enslavement of the Wookiees, rescuing key political... and delivering supplies to those in need. Obviously, with altruistic motives, the player would need to be embroiled in combat, using a wide range of customizable weapons and armor, explosives, and vehicles to defeat stormtroopers and take out Imperial targets. Like Star Wars Underworld, we knew that the Rise of the Rebellion concept presented significant challenges. Do you see a pattern? Everything they were doing was a challenge. And I have taken that to heart, personally. Chief among these concerns was the question, if I'm not a diehard Star Wars fan, why would I want to play this game? As with all the concepts, the team wanted to appeal not only to dedicated Star Wars fans, but also to gamers of all types and more casual fans of the franchise. We were uncertain whether the hero we envisioned, the story of the first rebel, and the proposed gameplay mechanics would captivate all those groups. But the team's passion for a truly heroic central character kept this concept alive and moving forward. All right, next concept. The Jedi Outlaw. As part of our early explorations, we considered a number of established Star Wars time periods, including the Knights of the Old Republic era, set thousands of years before the Star Wars movies. We were also interested in establishing new time periods. A wholly new era would be free of existing continuity constraints, providing us with greater freedom to craft an epic galaxy-altering story. As of late 2004, no one had yet told any Star Wars stories set hundreds or thousands of years in the future of the Star Wars timeline. We therefore targeted an era about 500 years after the death of Darth Vader for a concept codenamed Jedi Outlaw. According to our early design documents, by the time of Jedi Outlaw, both the Jedi and the Sith orders have been rebuilt. However, rather than continue their eons-long war with one another, the two groups have struck an uneasy truce. Instead of a Jedi Council, there is just the Council, a ruling body populated by 6 Jedi and 6 Sith. The protagonist in this concept was to be the last descendant of the legendary Luke Skywalker. As the story opens, the player character is essentially a Jedi sheriff, tasked with defending his region of space from criminals, alien invaders, natural disasters, and other threats. Eventually, the main character is framed for the death of another Jedi and becomes an outlaw himself. Hunted by both the Jedi and the Sith, holy shit, the hero must discover who betrayed him and why, and all the signs to point one of the Council's most respected Jedi masters, whose last name just happens to be Solo. Holy shit. The Jedi Outlaw concept was notable among the team's early concepts because of its strong emphasis on the Force. We theorized that, over the centuries, the Jedi and the Sith learned to harness the Force in new and inventive ways. The player would have been able to hurl balls of Force energy, right? Because that's in the actual game. See in virtually any spectrum and even shape shift. Holy shit. While not unleashed yet, Jedi Outlaw certainly planted the seeds for the over-the-top Force powers that would eventually help define the game. In addition to finding new applications for the Force, Jedi and Sith of this era would be better equipped than their film counterparts, going far beyond simple robes and lightsabers. According to the design, the player would be able to construct and customize sophisticated armor and exotic lightsabers, including a wide range of variant lightsabers. Perhaps most intriguing was the proposed ability to infuse weapons and armor with the player's own innate Force powers. Oh, that's also sounds, the Force lightning imbued lightsaber in the game. Interesting. Imagine a suit of high-tech armor or a double-bladed lightsaber crackling with Sith lightning. Bro. He's one of us, dude. This is exactly how we think, man. One of the concept's greatest strengths, its wide open time period, also presented, what is it again? One of its biggest challenges. The team knew that setting a story 500 years into the future of Star Wars might not appeal to mainstream gamers and casual fans. Still, the rich world that the team had developed made it a dark horse contender to become the next Star Wars event. Here's another concept. Okay, so we almost got to where they pitched to George. So these are all just stuff that they thought up before they pitched to George. Yeah, so here's the next one. So this is Rebel Warrior, and then there's a few other ones we'll go over too. Among the team members themselves, the most controversial and polarizing pitch started with a one-line idea, but with a single piece of concept art depicting an enraged Wookiee hurling the head of a dismantled AT-ST at an Imperial stormtrooper. From this piece arose Rebel Warrior, a game concept that would have put the player into the role of a Wookiee battling the evil Empire. The concept appealed to some of the team members because it allowed us to create a new kind of Star Wars superhero. The Wookiee of Rebel Warrior would have been super strong, incredibly fast and agile, and able to use a wide range of weapons in his war against the Empire. We also wanted to explore the Wookiee species' legendary fury by introducing some type of Berserker Rage feature that would enable the hero to become even more powerful when activated. Rebel Warrior shared many of Rise of the Rebellion central mechanics, an open-world and flexible mission system that would allow the Wookiee to take on the Empire in his own unique ways. Customizing the Wookiee hero, altering his appearance as the player sees fit, was also a key feature of this concept. Concerned that a game built solely around a Wookiee wouldn't resonate with everyone, we continued to expand from the core idea, eventually adding a second playable character. As Rebel Warrior transformed, the Wookiee was joined by a female partner, a weaponsmith with a mean streak. Alone, neither character would have been able to strike at the Empire, but by working together, they would have become the most dangerous rebels alive. Although many at LucasArts had a great deal of passion for the project, we also knew that a game featuring such unconventional characters could struggle to receive a final green light and enter full production. Despite this, we continue to elaborate on the concept, hoping that a playable Wookiee character would provide a unique and captivating hook. So that shows you, that's a concept that you can tell how he wrote it, that they were not really sold on, that it was just kind of totally whack and totally out there, showing that they never limited themselves. They thought of the most insane, ridiculous things, and sometimes those things work, But out of the concepts so far, honestly, I really like Underworld, and I really like, my favorite one is Jedi Outlaw. I think that would have been really, really, really cool. That just concept of that is ridiculous. You know, like, it's so cool, man. Like Jedi with armor and customizable lightsabers and force-infused things, and, you know, Jedi and Sith working together, and Jedi and Sith both hunting this guy. Like, it's just crazy. Like, that's so cool. I want to make that. You know, I want to make that happen one day. That would be awesome. So some other early concepts were a Darth Maul game. We considered virtually every major character for a starring role in the next Star Wars game, including Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Boba Fett, Yoda, and even Princess Leia. But Darth Maul, a perennial fan favorite, one of the most memorable prequel characters, received the most attention. The Darth Maul concept put the player in the role of the Sith assassin prior to the events of Episode 1. The story and gameplay would have allowed the player to secretly hunt down and destroy the Emperor's enemies, including several Jedi. The core of the Maul game would have been fast-paced lightsaber combat, punctuated by the use of force powers and weapons. Ultimately, the Darth Maul concept was shelved in favor of other ideas that allowed for more freedom to create a sweeping story with new protagonists whose fate wasn't already known to fans. Jedi Master. Part of the early concept development involved testing the waters with various ideas, putting a short pitch in front of potential consumers to gather feedback on a very specific features or elements. Jedi Master was positioned as the continuation of the critically acclaimed Jedi Knight series, but with a new twist. The story was much darker, more violent, and more mature than previous iterations. The early concept overview described the game as Star Wars-style survival horror, emphasizing life or death battles with frightening aliens, horrific cyborgs, deranged cultists, and... oh my god, what the fuck? And relentless bounty hunters, all during the Jedi Purge immediately after Episode 3. Although written only to gauge interest in both another Jedi Knight title and Star Wars game with more mature themes, even from the outset, the team felt that the concept was far too gratuitous and derivative, which consumer testing soon confirmed. Bro, I don't think so. I think that's a crazy idea. I think that nowadays people would buy that. I mean, I'd be all over that shit. That's crazy. I mean, that is crazy. A Star Wars style survival horror. It's like Resident Evil, kind of. Obviously, you're not like trapped. It would have been really wide open and everything, but the feel, the vibe of Resident Evil and Star Wars, bro, come on. The next one, I think this is the last like concept we go over. Yeah, before we get to George. Oh no. Holy shit. I don't even know what I'm going to title this video because, you know, SEO is important, but... okay, so yeah, we're just doing the first chapter, so we're almost... I think we're almost done. Yeah. We're like... yeah, anyways. Jedi Prime is the next one. While exploring other eras, the team hit upon the one-liner, become the galaxy's first Jedi. This early idea prompted a host of questions and story opportunities. Who was the first Jedi? How did he discover the Force? How did he build the first lightsaber? As the team began answering these questions, we also developed the game's central villain, the first Sith, a character who, in the early storyline, is inspired by the first Jedi to also discover the Force, but quickly corrupts it for his own ends. Jedi Prime was an interesting concept, but the team knew that any idea set outside the films might not resonate with a mainstream audience. Thus, we decided to focus on just one new era game, and Jedi Prime was set aside in favor of the richer Jedi Outlaw concept set 500 years after Return of the Jedi. Okay, so Jedi Prime was like before they developed Jedi Outlaw. And Jedi Outlaw, I'd say, you know, that... solid. So here's Georgie. This is his part now. Here we go. True Jedi Trials, pitching to George Lucas. That's like a dream. That right there, pitching to George Lucas. Only in my dreams, bro. Come on. By April of 2005, the team had developed and focus tested several solid concepts, including Star Wars Underworld, Rise of the Rebellion, Rebel Warrior, and Jedi Outlaw. So those were the main ones that they tested. Each concept had its obvious strengths and weaknesses, with Underworld and Rise of the Rebellion the clear front runners. Makes sense. The next step in this early concept development phase involved pitching these ideas to George Lucas for feedback. Though Lucas had always believed that the next Star Wars stories could and should be told through interactive games, he had never been actively involved in helping develop a game story. That's interesting. So basically, all the games prior to Force Unleashed, George wasn't really super involved with. That's really cool. I didn't know that. I assumed he'd be super involved with everything, but I guess, like, I mean, he's, like, said yes to it, you know, but, like, he wasn't involved in, like, making it happen as much, you know? He's just kind of like, yes or no, you know, and was like, all right, now do it, you know? Interesting. Because we at Lucasfilm and LucasArts wanted this game to become the next major installment in the core Star Wars mythos, his involvement was paramount. So this game was really like the next piece of Star Wars. Like, it was the next, like, thing, canonically, I guess. It seems like it was a really, like, big deal back then, you know, when it was, you know, pitched. We prepared for several weeks before our initial conversation with Lucas, creating several colorful pitch boards that displayed concept art and text calling out key features. The pitch boards were meant to be springboards for additional conversation, allowing us to quickly convey the core idea of each concept and then elaborate on specific areas at Lucas's request. I forgot to show you this page. Here you go. And yes, that is Darth fucking Maul. As expected, Lucas provided a wealth of ideas and feedback for each concept. The early stages of the meeting revolved around Star Wars in general. Lucas, this is important now, Lucas emphasized the need to include both drama and comedy in any Star Wars story and stressed the core themes of the films, including redemption, which would later become an important term for us, obviously through Starkiller. He encouraged us to focus on mainstream accessibility in both the story and the game mechanics, and offered insight into other Star Wars projects in development, including the new animated Clone Wars series. The specific concepts were received with mixed enthusiasm by Lucas. The features presented in Star Wars Underworld, starship customization and evolving crew, and open-ended mission structure appealed to Lucas, but he recognized the lack of a strong story. Nevertheless, he was comfortable with us moving forward with the idea, confident that a compelling plot could be developed using the Star Wars Underworld as a backdrop. Lucas was similarly intrigued by Rise of the Rebellion and approved setting the eventual game between the two movie trilogies. He also approved our desire to reveal when, how, and where the Rebel Alliance was born. This is George, bro. This is George, bro. Is George. Wow. Rebel Warrior and Jedi Outlaw faced far worse. After spending several minutes discussing the importance of drama and meaningful dialogue between two characters, Lucas was critical of the Rebel Warrior concept because it featured a main character, a Wookiee, who couldn't actually speak. What? Yeah, why didn't I? What the fuck? I should have totally... In addition, the team's vision of what a Wookiee could be, specifically our desire to imbue the hero with immense strength, incredible speed and agility, and other superhuman attributes, did not match Lucas's own vision of the species. While he liked the idea of a powerful, almost monstrous hero, he encouraged us to create a new alien species to fulfill this role. Lucas felt that Jedi Outlaw was set too far outside the existing films, much as we had feared. However, even within this flawed concept, Lucas had identified a handful of elements that could be carried into any game design. He approved the team's descriptions of the new Force powers, which ultimately became the seeds for the Force Unleashed. As we left this first meeting with George Lucas, oh my god, we were slightly conflicted. On one hand, we were inspired by Lucas's wealth of ideas and creative energy. Our confidence had been boosted by the fact that he shared our same reservations about some of the concepts. On the other hand, we felt validated by his support of our favorite ideas and features, though there was no clear support of any single concept. Even Underworld and Rise of the Rebellion, concepts that had resonated with both the team and Lucas, were still missing some ingredients that would make them truly special. Despite the lack of a clear winner among the pitches, the meeting with George Lucas provided us with the next set of parameters for our next round of explorations. We now know that the game would be set in the era between episodes 3 and 4. We also wanted to include some of the elements that resonated with Lucas, including the birth of the rebellion and a new vision for Force powers. Here's this page. I think we're almost done here. Yeah, okay, we're very close to being done now. Round 2, Rebel Jedi. After the meeting with... See the merge? Do you see the merge? After the meeting with Lucas, the development team regrouped and began strategizing our next steps. We quickly shelved Rebel Warrior, Jedi Outlaw, and even Star Wars Underworld, and slowly focused solely on improving the Rise of the Rebellion concept. At the same time, we returned to the wealth of consumer research, where we came to terms with our rather obvious missing ingredient. Although initially reluctant to focus on a Jedi or Force-wielding hero, the research was undeniable. Gamers and Star Wars fans alike identified being a Jedi as the most appealing Star Wars fantasy. We began building a new concept. For this revised pitch, codenamed Rebel Jedi, we wanted to combine customizable gadgets and weapons with a handful of Force powers. The hero was described as a former soldier who had mastered a wide array of weapons and has learned to use them in a combination with his innate and burgeoning Force abilities. The protagonist in Rebel Jedi was inspired by heroes from classic spy movies, comic books, and even westerns. He had access to gadgets galore, a tricked-out secret lair, several exotic vehicles, and a handful of loyal contacts, and a colorful rogues gallery of villains. The story revolved around two classic themes, revenge and redemption. The hero initially begins as an Imperial agent, hiding his connection to the Force, while seeking out and defeating the Emperor's enemies. However, he is eventually betrayed by his handler, who reveals the hero's Jedi heritage to the Empire. The resourceful hero then goes underground, using his skills and powers to strike back. The Empire, in turn, sends an army of bounty hunters and other villains after the hero, intent on destroying him. While initially motivated by revenge, the protagonist's fight against the Empire inspires other freedom fighters, including Bail Organa and Princess Leia. After a series of successful strikes, the Alliance is officially born. As part of developing the Rebel Jedi concept, the team began our first true pre-visualization work, creating short animated sequences to convey the appeal of combining Force powers with weapon use. These animations included a sequence in which the armored hero ignites a stormtrooper with a flamethrower and then uses the Force to hurl that fiery Imperial into another group of enemies, setting them all ablaze. Holy shit. Another previs animation features the protagonist freezes an enemy with a carbonite gun, then shatters the frigid statue with a well-placed Force push. We also designed a rich weapon customization system for creating a host of exotic weapons and viral reputation system, which would allow word of the hero's deeds to spread across the galaxy. So it's like kind of Red Dead a little bit. Rebel Jedi was certainly closer to the type of hero, core gameplay mechanics, and storyline the team would ultimately develop into The Force Unleashed. Yet when presented to LucasArts' executive team, the concept was rejected. In trying to combine so many disparate elements, we had strayed too far from what many felt was the heart of Star Wars, the Jedi. My mouth is so dry. Okay, 2 pages. We got this. Did I show you this page yet? I don't think so. Here you go. Okay, next page. Here you go. Kaboom. Finding the Force Unleashed. By late spring of 2005, those of us on the Star Wars team were starting to get nervous. While we did not have a concrete release date yet, and the development group had not grown substantially since August 2004, we had invested significant time, money, and energy into creating new technology and development tools for a game that we had not yet received any official green light. We needed a clear concept and help define our technology needs, develop staffing plans and schedules, and increase morale. While hundreds of concepts had been explored, we knew that we had still not had the perfect combination of gameplay features, storyline, and central protagonist. Finding the right formula proved to be far more art than science. Finding the right formula proved to be far more art than science. That's everything. That's everything in life, to be honest with you. That is like, yeah. If there was one tip of advice I could give anyone in life at my young age right now, that would be it. That is what I have discovered. That's true. And our confidence was shaken by the failure of the Rebel Jedi concept. To jumpstart the next phase of concept development, the team took a two-pronged approach. First, we stripped the Rebel Jedi concept to its core, focusing on the Jedi over the Rebel. We removed all references to gadgets and high-tech weapons, which focused us to rely on the Jedi's tried and true arsenal, force powers, and a lightsaber. With this in mind, the art and design teams began to work on a new round of concept art centered solely on the Force. The direction given to the team was simple: do something with the Force that's never been seen in a game before. At the time, we revisited the story and identity of the main character. We knew that the idea of starting the game as a villain and then transforming over time into a hero was appealing to consumers and fans. This was also an arc the team wanted to explore for its great dramatic potential. By removing the character's use of weapons and gadgetry, it became clear that the character who would need to be an overt Force wielder, whose connection to the Force was probably well known to the Emperor. But where would such a character fit within the Imperial ranks in Star Wars continuity? Initially, the answer seemed simple. If the Emperor knew about this Force wielder and hadn't destroyed him, as he had all the other Jedi, then the main character must be one of the Emperor's servants. He could not be a soldier or Imperial officer, but one of Palpatine's clandestine operatives, and perhaps even a rival to Darth Vader. This backstory certainly wasn't unique. Continuity had already established that the Emperor uses Force-sensitive agents known as the Emperor's Hands, including fan favorite Mara Jade, who eventually reforms and marries Luke Skywalker. But we desperately wanted our protagonist to be one of a kind, so we raised the stakes. What if, instead of actually serving the Emperor, this character was actually the Emperor's secret apprentice, someone he was training to eventually replace Darth Vader? This notion was driven in part from conversations with George Lucas. He explained that after Anakin's devastating defeat in Episode 3, the Emperor views Darth Vader as broken, his once formidable connection to the Force weakened by the fact that his body is largely cybernetic and inorganic. Thus, it made sense to us that the Emperor would find and train a replacement. As the identity of the main character was taking shape, the first round of Force explorations was delivered. They range from metaphysical extensions of familiar Force concepts, an army of Jedi and Sith spirits summoned by the player to fight alongside the player character, to new powers inspired by comic books and science fiction, shape-shifting, teleportation, even wall crawling. While all of these ideas certainly had gameplay implications, they didn't feel particularly suitable to Star Wars. During discussions about these diverse powers and ideas, however, we kept returning to the importance of reimagining the Jedi and Sith's core powers, push, grip, and lightning specifically. We decided to focus almost exclusively on Force Push, which was viewed as the Jedi's staple power. If the team could re-envision this power, seen so many times in the films and other sources, then we were confident we could reinvent the other powers as well. The concept artists produced another round of imagery, eventually creating pieces that would become the building blocks for the Force Unleashed. Among these was an image of a stormtrooper being hurled backwards as if it was hit by an invisible cannonball, slamming through stone columns as he flew through the air. Poster art. With this image in mind, the team began discussing what it must feel like to be a classically trained Jedi, almost overflowing with the Force energy, but taught to always control this power, to never give in to emotion, cut loose, or let go. What if the game's central character, whose training was not that of a traditional Jedi, allowed him to unleash the Force in violent, unpredictable ways. The result would be the Force as we know it, amped up and even out of control in some cases. As used by the Emperor's apprentice, the Force could be violent, visceral, and elemental. The vision of the Force was taking shape, but we still had nagging doubts about the main character's role as the Emperor's apprentice. The Emperor was seen as a manipulative, greedy, and cruel, but not necessarily engender fear in the team, nor did we aspire to play a character like him. Instead, we knew of a far more menacing character whom we all knew players would want to serve, impress, and even become: Darth Vader. Once we wrote down the phrase Darth Vader's secret apprentice, we were stunned by the immediate surge of creative energy it inspired. Suddenly, we had a clear and simple origin for the main story character, something around which we could build a story. Darth Vader seeks to overthrow the Emperor and trains an apprentice to help him with this daunting task. With these two key phrases, Darth Vader's secret apprentice and the Force Unleashed, we finally had the foundation for the next Star Wars game. Boom. That is how the Force Unleashed was born. And the next concept, the next part of this book is very George Lucas heavy. Very, very George Lucas heavy. In this part, we only saw how... Holy shit. Yeah, this book totally tore. Whatever. It's fine. It's still functional. I'll just glue it back in. See? Oh, God. It's like totally like if you do this, the cover will fall off. Anyways. So this part of the book was about how this group of people, developed a piece of Star Wars, of real Star Wars that respected George's vision, that, was exciting, was unique, but still felt like Star Wars, had the core themes and the core tone of Star Wars, that it had that, and that was a central piece to the development of this game. And you saw the amount of amazing concepts that they developed that, were still flawed, that had issues, that had things that were like, little bits and pieces, like a Wookiee can't talk. How are you going to make him a protagonist? Like the main protagonist, he can't even talk. And you want him to be some, that doesn't work, obviously, right? Like George wanted them to have this story made. He was just like, it needs to still be Star Wars because that's what Star Wars is, It's not, it needs to feel like my 6 films. And a large focus of this development was the fans and the consumer research and the consumer tests and all that was central. Never once in this whole run through was it, we need this to make money. No, it was, we need this to appeal to people. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference? It's like we want this to appeal to super fans, kind of fans, and not, and just gamers. Not fans. Not fans don't like Star Wars, but gamers. People who weren't, super into Star Wars yet, hadn't been introduced, and this is their first introduction, right? So there's 3 groups that they had to appeal to, and that was their goal. It wasn't, I need to make a few $1 million. That's all Disney cares about, is, I want to make a few $1 million. That's it. Back then, it was a lot more than that. It was really delivering a beautiful piece of art with every single project. And every single project had to feel like Star Wars, or else it would not get approved. And George would send them back to the writing room with his wisdom and his knowledge and with hope, that you guys can do this. I know you guys want to make this game and we need to make this happen. This needs some more work. This needs some more work. I believe in you guys. Go do it. Come back with your new concept. That's how George approached everything. It was never, this is disgusting and horrible, or this is amazing and oh my gosh, you don't even need to come to me or whatever. It's the balance. It's the in between. It's the not all the way. It's like being firm, but not being, discouraging, and emphasizing over everything the importance of keeping it consistent with the 6 films and making sure, because that's how people see Star Wars is through the 6 films. And George knew that, and he was like, well, we need to keep everything this way. Because if we don't, then it's just not going to be Star Wars anymore, and that was the key to everything. Was this needs to feel like Star Wars. I mean, we read that 1,000 times. This needs to feel like Star Wars. This needs to relate to Star Wars' key themes. This needs to, right? It's like constantly the same thing over and over and over and over again. Was repeated. And it's like, because that is central to, critical to how you make a Star Wars project, is this needs to feel like the 6 films. It can be totally different. The Force Unleashed is not even, like, there's nothing, like, it's a totally unique thing. But the tone, the way the story's written, all of that, you could smack in the middle of the 6 films and it would feel like one story, right? It's not like where you have the 6 films and, let's say, The Acolyte, or the 6 films and Skeleton Crew, or the 6 films and Andor, right? Like, none of those things fit. They're all totally, like, different things. Now, hence, Andor's a good show. Skeleton Crew was an okay show as a show that was based on Star Wars, but not a show that is Star Wars. Do you see the difference? And it's like, this, I feel, is a guide and probably some of the most important Star Wars literature that I've ever read, because this is the key to making real Star Wars, is in this book. Just one little book that they made. And also, like I said before, do you see how in-depth this is? Like, they're not hiding anything. They're telling you this concept wasn't good. George didn't like this. George liked this. George liked pieces of, right? It's like, they're not like, oh yeah, the whole time George was like, yeah. They're like, no, we screwed up sometimes, or George didn't like this sometimes. It was none of the sugarcoating bullshit that Hollywood does nowadays, where no one can just be real anymore. Everyone has to be fake. And, this is so great. And then behind their back, they're like, oh, this was the worst piece of shit I've ever, right? It's like, guys, don't sugarcoat and be all Mr. Nice Guy, and then behind someone's back go, oh yeah, this was horrible. Like, be honest with them. Be like, I didn't really enjoy this for this, and that reason, Like, it's just, this is a testament to not only Star Wars development, not only Star Wars, but Hollywood, film, everything of that sort. This is a true testament to how to go through the development process. This is literally a perfect guide, to going through that process. This is how it should be. You shouldn't limit yourself. You should think of things that are impossible, and never go, oh, well, there's no way I'm going to do that. You should think, well, I'm going to write this as big as it can be, and I'm going to make it as big as I can be. Do you see? You're not limiting yourself. You're like, I'm going to go as far and as wide as I can. And honestly, that's, again, kind of my motto in life. Is I never look at anything like it's a science, like it's statistical, like it's, numbers or A, B, C, D, or, none of that shit. It's always what I feel, what feels right in my heart, right? These are all the things, the ways that I look at things, I look at life as an art and not a science, or just things in life as an art and not a science. You know, I look at my future career, my future life, my life right now, is I'm always trying to pull and stretch myself thin, doing the most I can, the best I can do it, while always thinking in the bigger picture and where I actually want to go. I'm never thinking, I'm fine and comfortable being this little 9 to 5 worker and I can still buy my books and whatever and I can just stay in my bowl. I'm like, no, 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 no. I need to be great. I need to be something. I need to be something. I can't live in life being nothing. I don't work that way. I need to be something, and I want to make an effect in the world somehow through art. That's what I want to do. Whatever that is, whether it's I'm on the business side of making art happen and being this new kind of producer, whatever, that wants art to go through and doesn't want these products to go through on a conveyor line. I actually want to help make art happen. Or if I'm actually the one, making the art and sending it to someone else, right? It's one of those things, that's where I'm going to end up. I just, one or the other, who knows? I'll end up where I end up, or both. I could do both. In an ideal world, I'd love to do both, but you never know. Shit happens, and I love both equally. I love making stuff happen, and I love conceptualizing and all that kind of stuff too. Like I said, I'm a producer and I'm a writer, so I'm interested in business, and I'm interested in production. And the way I even view business isn't super statistical. It's very much speaking to, I guess, the human soul too, and it's not like, oh, well, I'm going to screw this person over and I'm going to knock this person over. I'm going to gyp them of this price. It's like, no, 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 no. I'm going, how can I convince this person that this is a better way to go about something without completely ruining their dreams and their idea? I want to make their idea happen. It just needs to happen in a way that's possible. But I'm not going to limit myself and make it tiny. I'm going to work with the best of my ability to make their vision become a reality, but I just, some things might need to go because they're just simply not feasible with whatever, that's how I look at it. I'm not like, Mr. Everything needs to go 100% my way. If it's not, if I'm working on someone else's film and another production company that's not my production company, I'm gonna make their shit happen. I'm not gonna be all like, oh, this and that. Like, it's not my, conceptual piece. It's their conceptual piece that I'm making happen, and it's like, that's the way you should go about things. But at the same time, keeping a kind of shield with you to be basically, not shield, but just something with you to remember that there are things that are just that don't work. Like, look, there were things in this that just didn't work, and making, right, and the guy who makes it happen, the business person, is the one who, has to tell the artist, hey, this doesn't work, this works, right? Like that, we saw George do that, and that's what I do on all my projects, as I'm like, okay, in order for this to happen the way you're saying you want it to happen, this doesn't really work. You explain why. You're like, I understand why you thought of this, but at the end of the day, it doesn't work for the overall goal you're trying to achieve, It's like, there you go. That's how, this is what we need. We need more of this. We need more of this. We need more people, like Hayden Blackman, like Theory, who does this too with his Saber company and with his short films and fan films, or whatever you want to call them, films. Obviously, no shit, like George, like what I'm trying to do, like what I'm sure many others out there are trying to do, hopefully. I hope there's more of us out there, I hope there's more people who think this way out there, who just are trying to do and be the best. I genuinely hope so. I'm not like, I want to be the only one who, no. I'd love if there's a team of us who could think with common sense, could think logically, that couldn't be hyper control freaks. That's what the movie industry, entertainment industry needs, whether it's movies, video games, whatever the hell, TV shows, amusement park shit. This is what we need. We need this, and it's like, this is dying. Because nowadays, selfishness and people who are like, I want everything to be exactly my vision and my way, and I'm going to ruin my own film because I want this exact thing to happen, and this cup needs to be red. It's like all that shit, that's what's ruining what was ruining film. And now we're at this time where we're seeing like these newer films coming out that are done with heart, that are done realistically, like Superman, Fantastic Four, like all these new films that have released over the summer have given me a lot of hope for cinema going forward, because they've all just been consistently good and have had the good balance of possible, going over what we think is possible, and conceptually very strong, and you need the mix or else it doesn't work, so anyways, that's my little spiel after that. But I hope you guys enjoyed. That was like enlightening knowledge behind the old Lucasfilm development process. I'd love to see what it's like now. Oh my gosh, I'm sure it's like the difference, man. See, this is the difference between now. It's like I can't look at modern Lucasfilm and go, oh yeah, that place is so awesome. Like, come on, compared to this, really? Shit. We have fallen a long way, bro. I mean, we get all excited when something's like 25% Star Wars. It's like we are that low right now. Ridiculous. Goodness gracious Lord. Anyways, that's it. So leave a like, subscribe, share if you want me to continue this series. I also have the new 20th anniversary Revenge of the Sith special book that was released by Titan Comics that I'm going to go over on here as well. So we have a lot of content incoming about these two books, and obviously news breaks, Saturday Lives, etc. So see you on the next one. May the Force be with you always. Goodbye.